local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the feed. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty.
Good morning, Rockingham, and welcome to the feed. It's Mike and Marty, and today we have Gary Fox with us. It's February 23rd, getting close to spring.
Under 30 days, I think.
Under 30 days. Balmy today, freezing tomorrow.
And snow on Friday.
Snow on Friday. So it sounds like a typical February in Vermont. Before I forget, local events.
Local events. So at the Opera House this week, it's the continuation of Uncharted. It's a movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. And Mike, our local movie reviewer, actually went, so he'll tell you a
Yes,
little
I
bit
thought
about
it's a very good movie that could have been a great movie. It's a good action adventure movie, some good chemistry, great movie to take if you are on spring break with your kids and you're looking for something to do. It's the perfect movie for that. And there was plenty of room at the theater, good popcorn, great triple ups. So I would highly recommend it.
And the classic movie, which is tonight, the 23rd, is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's truly the classic. Richard Dreyfuss, right? Is that
Yes.
his name? Yeah. And reminding everyone that next Monday is the town meeting. It's the informational session. It's going to be in the lower theater, and it's going to be a Zoom hybrid meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Zoom link would be available, I'm assuming, on the town hall.
It's on the website.
On the website. Or you can come in person. And then voting day is the next day. That's when you vote for the budgets. And are we still voting for the? Did the budget go to Australian ballot?
Everything.
It did. Okay, everything went to Australian ballot. I lost track.
Sure, yeah, it's easy to do.
And that's at the Masonic Temple back
Yes.
there. Okay, so it's back at the Masonic Temple. Okay.
Yeah, so it's really important to get out and vote. There's a lot of things on the besides the budgets. There is the cannabis retailer article, and then there's also an article that Gary's going to talk about today about the train station. So really good. It's one of these. Sometimes you go and there doesn't seem like there's anything to vote on. Not this year. There's a lot to vote on. I think there's some interesting developments in the school board race. People are wanting to get written in and stuff, so pay attention to that. First time I think I've seen people pay attention, really be interested in being on the school board in a while, and so that's an interesting development. But today we have Gary Fox with us. He's the development director for the town of Bellows Falls, the
Rockingham.
big town of Rockingham,
Yep.
excuse me, and he's going to talk about two things today: the article about the train station, but also about ARPA projects. And I am really the odd man out on this ARPA thing because I know nothing about it, but I know Marty and Gary have both been immersed in ARPA. So first to find out, well, what is ARPA?
So ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act, and it is funding that's very different from all of the other coronavirus relief funding that has come through. Most of the relief funding has been urgent, spend it quick. You have to commit it now, and you have to have it spent by such and such a date. Really tight timelines. The purpose of this is long-term recovery, resilience. It's about the next pandemic that comes up. How are we in better shape for it? So they put our federal government put a really long timeline on it. I think 2023 commitment of funds, 2024 to spend them. So there's plenty of time to decide what to do with them. And the goal is really to be thoughtful about it. Make sure you're not spending it on things that there's other money available for. To use it, it can have some. It can be short-term investment, but if you're looking for long-term goals, long-term benefit from the short-term investment, and they're really strongly encouraging public input process, and so the long-term, the public input, and using it for things that you can't find funding in other ways. There was initially some very strict guidelines.
Very strict guidelines, yeah.
Yeah, the four things you could spend it on, and those are still good things to focus on.
What were they? Just generally, what were the four things that they...
It was like these four categories, right? And a lot of it was I think public health, right? Public health type things.
Yeah, so there was one that was the all of the health things for it could be risk pay or some type of make-up pay for frontline health workers with COVID. Anything to do with PPE or addressing the pandemic. So that type of health aspect.
So they
was
threw
one.
all that off. though. They sort of said anything
Yes.
goes now.
Yeah, and just really quickly, the other thing, there was infrastructure, water, sewer, and broadband were the three types of infrastructure. So not roads, bridges, but water, sewer, broadband, because of resilience. And we were talking earlier, development, the important
Yeah.
for development, which if you have a healthy, vibrant community, you're going to be more resilient to pandemics. And another one was, let's see, the third one was... I'm drawing a blank on it, but the fourth one
Yeah.
was to make up for government losses. So if you lost money during the pandemic because of having to spend it on critical and urgent issues, or because people couldn't pay their taxes because so many people, businesses had to close down, it's kind of hard to, it seems like so long ago, like it was such a drastic thing in March 2020 to, what do you mean we have to close? We can't go to
Yeah.
work, and but now it seems like the norm.
Sadly enough,
And,
yes, it does.
So what's interesting is that it was challenging to implement that, to be compliant with it, and to get the right categories, both for municipalities to work with and for the government to hold people in compliance with and give people guidance. So they totally reversed direction, and they implemented, instead of a really rigid formula to show losses for government operations, they just gave the way you have a standard deduction on your taxes, right? You just, no matter what you've done, everyone has a standard deduction. You automatically, if you do the simple form, can take $5,000. So just like that, the standard deduction, you don't have to have actually lost money, is $10 million for a local government.
Okay.
So for everyone in Vermont, that's way more than the ARPA funds. So you can claim you can claim your the amount of money that your ARPA funds are in lost revenues.
Right.
And then you have to do the accounting correctly to be in compliance, but you take your expenses and apply the ARPA funds to those expenses. And now the money is in your general fund.
Okay.
And you can use it however you
And
spend money.
the
Or your
ARPA
fund
funds themselves are based on population, on per capita population?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like $300 a person?
Yes.
That's
yeah.
that's the breakdown. It says I understand the breakdown. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that comes out to, we have about $450,000 in Rockingham and $850,000 in Bellows Falls and $150,000 in Saxons River. And those aren't
Yeah.
exact, they're rough,
rough.
but and then each of the boards determines how to spend it. But regardless of that, you can spend it on anything, and that the boards make the final decision. It is, we're strongly encouraging people to follow the intent of the law, which
Right.
is that resilience, long-term benefit, being careful not to spend it on things that you can fund in other methods.
Right.
And to get public input, right? The boards don't have to, but, and so Rockingham, Bellows Falls, and Saxons River all supporting a robust public process. And so if you go to the rockinghamvt.org, the town website, there is a page under municipal projects called American Rescue Plan. And so on that page, there's information about it, and there's a place to enter projects. So if you have an idea for a project, maybe it's you want to put solar panels on your business to save funds, or it's a community building, and you want solar panels to reduce those costs and be more resilient, or it could be a historic building like the Adams Grist Mill that you want to save, or it could be a project like a youth center and programming. So really any type of idea we're strongly encouraging people to put them in. It's a very simple process, Marty.
It was very simple. I did it the other day in probably about, I don't know, 10 minutes. I mean, granted, I had a project description and scope of work and all of that stuff ready to go because it's a project that I'm working on. So somebody might not have that aspect of it, but you can write that up pretty quickly. If they get the gist of what you're looking for,
Yes.
at least there's probably more time to flesh out exactly what you're, and it was simple. It was simple. Google form, uploaded my project description and submit.
So the goal was to be just like Marty's describing. So you just need to write 3 or 4 lines describing the project, and then the rest of it is drop down, multiple choice, and then you can upload documents if you have business plans, diagrams, but you don't need to have those. You can just put in as much as you have in mind, and then there's a public engagement session scheduled in the middle of March. It'll be either the Wednesday or Thursday in mid-March. And that'll be an opportunity to look at projects that have been presented, talk about them. The facilitators will elicit other projects from people, look for synergies. And so there is a whole engagement process.
Right,
and then there will be a second session in mid-April as
Okay.
well, and then a
So
final
for-
report that goes to the boards.
For this first phase, though, there's like a deadline of March 2nd to?
Yes.
And basically you go online, you fill out this form with your
Yep.
idea, you submit it by March 2nd, and then it's in the bucket to be
Yes.
considered.
Yeah, and we will have not everyone's comfortable with forms on a website,
Uh-huh.
so we will have some paper copies that people can write in at the voting
nice.
booth on
Oh,
town
that's a
meeting.
great
which,
idea. Yeah.
Which brings us to, a little bit for ARPA, but mostly for the train station article. The development office is going to be staffing the lawn out in front of the voting with information about the train station article. We'll have blank forms for the ARPA projects.
Nice.
Good,
And
good.
So who currently, so let's segue onto the train station. Who currently owns the train station?
yeah, so Vermont Rail System owns it,
Okay,
and the state of Vermont owns the land under it.
okay.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
And the idea of this article is to purchase the building or the land?
So the land will be leased from the state.
Okay.
So the state has a lot of rail property that they have hundreds of leases for, and it's important to them to maintain ownership and control of the rail property.
In case they want to do light rail or something in the future.
Yeah, there's rights of way, there's freight, there's it could be in 30 years. There's a rail project that they want to do, and but the station for passengers, right? The state doesn't run passenger rail, so although they do fund it a lot with the Amtrak.
Yeah.
So the passenger station is a historic building. It's a contributing structure in the National Register, and old historic buildings when they get to the point of needing their 50-year upgrades, it can be really expensive. We have pretty strict rules. We're a community that respects our history,
Right.
and we have a zoning district that the design review district it's called, that is really rigid about maintaining the historic structures. And if you're on the National Register, there's a state government, Division of Historic Preservation has a process called the Section 106, and you really have to honor the history.
Right.
And so at any rate, it can be very expensive, and the reason that a lot of buildings go is because how expensive it can be.
Right.
What's different with this one is that it's not a private building, it's part of the public transit system. And so the public transit system, there's a lot of historic intermodal centers, train stations, and our country has always been good at investing those. There's a national program called Great American Stations, something like that. But so at any rate, because of that, and because of the timing, where our federal government at the end of the fall passed well over $1 trillion infrastructure bill,
Right.
those funds are there. And the State Rail Division has it in their 5-year rail plan Bellows Falls Station is specifically called out, along with 4 others, for investment, for rehabilitation. And the feasibility study that we're doing provides everything that, provides all the information that the state needs to include us in the grant.
Right.
The other pieces they need are for us to be shovel-ready. And so we're, the town, in conjunction with the Vermont Rail System, they've been very collaborative, has started the environmental work back in December. And so really, the environmental work and being owned by an entity that can accept the federal grants, which is the town.
So that's
Yeah.
what makes it shovel-ready, is being
owned by the town. right.
the town.
So this acquisition is a key piece of
Yes,
that.
yes.
And once we have that, there is all of the federal funding opened up to us, which can rehab a historic building like this to Department of Interior
Right.
historic preservation
Right,
standards. So we're really fortunate that way.
Mm-hmm.
And $75,000, it's a penny and a half on the tax rate. But really, we've done the town, the community, and town government has done a great job with the taxes lately. So the budget is level funded, but that's with like hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra paving in there, above what we've done annually in the past decade. So really, it's a fair budget, a penny and a half, in order to be able to leverage millions of dollars and have this investment in our historic rail station.
Well, it's sort of like one of those, we were talking last week with Deb Fox, and we were talking about the idea of Bellows Falls being a destination place. This is so key to that. I mean, she's worked with Vermont Rail and everyone to bring people here.
Yes.
This is another one of those things. And I know people are upset that the YMCA was torn down,
Sure,
that Robertson's paper was torn down, that the garage was torn down. Well, here's an opportunity
Yes.
to, that it's an opportunity that's well thought out, that has a potential for funding that those other places didn't have.
Exactly.
And this is where you need to step up and vote.
And in the grand scheme of things, well, 2 things. It's in good structural shape. The other 2 buildings were left to deteriorate, not in good structural shape. That's when it becomes heinously expensive. It's at the precipice of good structural shape. $75,000 isn't really, I mean, truly, in the grand,
Seed money,
in the
really.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then it allows you to be able to rehab it. So to me, it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
especially because it caused so much ruckus. So many people were so sad to see all those historic places go. And the problem is because nobody took the initiative to reach them before the structural,
Right,
and
right.
you've taken the initiative to reach it before it was structurally able to be rehabbed.
Exactly.
So-
I mean, this seems, to me, again, it seems logical, and I'm hoping that people come out and listen, and because if there's money there to fix it, and we need to put a little money in to start that flow of money, I mean, that makes sense to me,
Yeah,
as
and we-
opposed to 2 years down the road, when they have to tear the thing down, and everybody's like, oh, why didn't we do something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
And it leads to, I know that there's been talks, and we've got about 6 minutes left, about kind of doing some development on the island and maybe adding, like a river walk and some things like that. It seems like that would be a cornerstone of that area being able to be developed, because I went to a couple of the talks. I don't remember exactly who is driving the train. Sorry, I didn't. That was an unintended pun. Driving, but I was like fascinated with the whole idea of development down there, because the downtown area, there's not much room for businesses to grow down there. It is what it is, but there could be a whole nother like little hub down there.
Exactly, yes. So that area-wide plan is what you're describing. There's a
Okay.
public input process for that. And it's geared towards areas with that have previously been contaminated, our post-industrial area, like the island. And it's there to help spur development for pieces of a community that haven't been able to get over that threshold. So our downtown has really come around in 20 years.
Yeah.
The island has not been able to, and the area-wide plan is a tool for bringing these type of areas back. And that's nearing completion. The environmental firm is adding their pieces to all of the projects and ideas that were put forth by the community. And probably it will be presented at the same meeting as the final ARPA projects
Oh, nice.
report at the joint board meeting at May 5th week of May.
Oh, nice.
And so another thing about this rail plan is that they talk about investment in transit-oriented development. So this area-wide plan, all of those things that you were talking about, the ideas put forth by the community are all aspects of transit-oriented development. And by driving this train for that gateway to the island area, it kind of kicks that off. It shows
Yeah.
the investment, the state between the off-alignment Depot Street Bridge, New Hampshire DOT coming around, now that they have the money and can take care of all of their priorities, funding the Vilas Bridge and the train station. It's about $30 million of investment from outside sources into our community that can really make that difference for the hump. And so when we have to, it hurts sometimes to add a penny and a half in the tax rate, but what we're leveraging with that
Yeah.
is huge. It's a once in a generation opportunity.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, and it seems like, you know, this time more than any time, we have to look to resiliency, and we have to look towards growth, and no matter what, Vermont is going more towards tourist industry and less towards, like, we're not gonna build a giant another Robertson paper down there that's going to employ 70 people. We're going to maybe have a lot of little boutique type places that employ
Right.
people, but bring in an influx of capital, or influx of cash,
Yep.
and keep things local. We're at 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
3 minutes, yeah.
Well, I wanted to point out that there's a good article today by Susan Smallhitter in the Brattleboro Reformer. She's written an article about a study was done and a presentation was given to the select board about the potential of what could be done at the train station, and I would invite people to read that article because it does present some interesting things. And then, I don't know if you've ever been to the Windsor train station, but
Nice.
they converted theirs. It's a train station and a
Beautiful.
restaurant. Wow, it's really nice. I mean, what a nice, if we could do something like that, because we need a restaurant too. Yeah, anyway.
And, you know, having a nice place for people to hang out when they're waiting for their trains or picking
Yeah.
people up from trains. That's just, you know, that's nice too.
Yeah.
And it is, I would just, it's a neat building right now. I mean, the benches and everything inside. We filmed a couple of things in there, movies sort of things.
Yep.
And it's
great.
just it's a great setting.
And that's where the stained glass window from the YMCA building landed, right? Isn't it in the train
It's
station?
being held there temporarily, and it's in a place where you can see it nicely inside.
Yeah, it
Nice.
looks pretty cool. I've been
Yeah.
in to see it too. That was,
Yeah.
they lit the back of the stained glass so you
Oh,
can see it.
nice.
It looks really nice. Yeah.
Nice.
So part of that whole, the area-wide plan and the destination tourism are some heritage centers where all of that history is focused, a cultural heritage center, whether it's some indigenous peoples, paper mills, the rail history, and so the stained glass window will join those other
Nice.
pieces of history
Yeah.
there. But it will take time for those. You know, this is the 5 to 10 year.
Right. It's not
plan,
going to
so-
happen. It's not going
Right,
to
so
happen.
it's nice that there's a holding place for this.
It
Yeah.
is.
So just really quickly, I do want to say that, you know, it's a large project. People have concerns, the town owning it, right? A possible burden on the taxpayers, which it won't be, but I would encourage people to come out when you're at the polls, stop in, let us know what your concerns are. I could answer any questions, describe how risks are mitigated, that it won't be a burden for the town. It'll be a net benefit, cash-wise, in
Nice.
addition to saving a
Oh,
piece
nice.
of history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe we can get Gary's information up again. If you want more information, you can contact him at the town hall. You can see the town website. All these forms and things that we've been talking about are there, available to everyone to see. I would encourage everyone to vote next week. It's 6 days away. I mean, the thing that gets me is I keep thinking it's Where it's
No, it
that's
isn't.
next
Next
month.
month, right.
That's next month, man. But it's next week, and yeah. So get out and vote. Pay attention to what's going on, and however you feel about anything, the most important thing to do is to vote. Yes. So I think that's it for this week.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks so much, Gary. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's
I hope
always
you'll come on.
always
Yeah.
a pleasure, and always so much information, and you do
Yes.
so much work for the town. So thank you for that too.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure. Nice to see you guys.
All right.
Bye,
That's it for the feed. See you. Bye.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Mike.